very difficult in today's world to be the president. There's just, whichever party. I think Obama will win.
This is a side of Jerry Springer that we rarely see, but for those of you who think you know Jerry Springer, you probably don't know the fact that he actually was a politician and he actually has a law degree and practiced law. We're sitting with him today to talk about his career and all of the things he's done.
Well, thank you. So if you have a legal problem, call Jerry at 1-800. No, I'm teasing.
And we were talking about politics. I was going to do a formal introduction, but I think that was a good way to start it. Jerry, you have become an icon, a cultural icon in television. You're one of the kings of tabloid television.
I'd like to apologize. I'm so sorry.
Do you really mean that?
Well, no, not really. We're not really tabloid. And what I mean, but we're crazy and stupid. And it's the most outrageous thing on television, perhaps. At least it was for a while. Now I'm not so sure it is. But we're clearly over the top. If you're known, you can't be on the show. In other words, we don't do celebrities.
Why not?
Because our show is, by definition, about regular people involved in outrageous situations.
Right, okay.
So we don't, other shows get famous guests. If you're known, you're not allowed to be on the show.
And so once again, this is an everyday man's Shakespearean tragedy played out before.
The guests may not use that term, Shakespearean tragedy.
But you have a lot of the same themes.
Yes. As you may know, there's an opera out, or has been out. It came out in England for several years, and now it's been touring the States, Jerry Springer, the Opera, which I have nothing to do with. It's about me, but I didn't, and about our show, but I had nothing to do with it.
To add one more thing to all the things you're doing.
Well, that's because my mother always wanted me to have culture. So now I could say, Mom, I got culture, I'm an opera. No, but, and what the opera is, at first you say, how can you have an opera and the Jerry Springer Show in the same sentence? And yet I always thought country music was my show put to music. But once I saw the opera, I realized, oh my gosh, opera is my show put to music. Because it's got all the traditional themes of opera. It has the chanting chorus, the gender misidentification, the mock tragedy, the farce, the comedy, the anger. So everything you see in going to an opera, you see on our show, except without the music. We can't afford the orchestra, it's so expensive.
But before you got into this kind of television, it was a more serious talk show. You had Jesse Jackson, you had Oliver North. What triggered the change?
I was drinking. No. What happened, the first 3 years, 2.5 years, we were kind of a normal, relatively boring talk show. At the time, you might remember there were like 20 talk shows on television, and virtually all of them were going after Oprah's audience, which the demographic at that time, though politically incorrect, was referred to as middle-aged housewives. Mm-hmm. So all 20 were trying to get a piece of that pie of the middle-aged housewife. Then along came Ricki Lake, and she really was the first talk show to go after the kids. When I say kids, I mean high school and college age.
18 to 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd even go younger. I'd say 16 to 24. So she was a young-oriented show. And so I just made the suggestion, because I don't own the show, but I made the suggestion, why are we trying to be 1 out of 20 going after Oprah's audience? It's a better business model to be 1 out of 2 and go after Ricky's audience, and we'll get a much larger audience just because we're only splitting it 2 ways. And so we tried that. Now the danger was, because I'm so old, relatively speaking, how could I relate to kids? But somehow that worked. And so we decided to, from then on, only to have young people in the audience, young people on stage, young subject matter. That was the only decision I was involved in. Well, young people, this is an unintended consequence. Young people just are wilder. They're much more open about their lives. And so all of a sudden, this show started to go a little bit crazy, just because young people are a little bit crazy. before they step on the carpet, their lives have been horrible. They step out there, all of a sudden,
They're
it's
in
like
the light.
they've gone to heaven. It's common to say, oh, they want their 15 minutes of fame, you know,
Right.
the Andy Warhol line. But that's not true at all, because first of all, they don't get any fame because they even use fake names. They can wear disguises. So there's no fame from this.
How long will you be doing this?
I have let NBC know that I am stopping when I'm 104.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it. Because I want to be able to enjoy my retirement. Honestly, the best training for doing this show was not being on the news for 10 years. The best training was being in politics for 10 years. Because in politics, I learned how to communicate with everyday people, all kinds of problems. And in politics, it's serious. This is obviously a circus. But you're dealing with the same people when you're running a city,
Right.
and the issues are serious. You're dealing with their lives. You can't clown around. But I think it hasn't ever been that difficult because I'm them.
Right.
I'm no different. I just dress better because I got lucky and got money. You know, but I'm exactly like the people on my show. We're all alike. And that's what the great fiction is in this whole media business. That the people in front of the camera every once in a while get so caught up in it that they honestly believe that they're better than the people who are watching.
And you lost a lot of your family.
Yep.
When you were a young boy to the Holocaust.
Right.
And your parents were refugees.
Yes.
How has that? How did that affect you?
It's probably, though you'd have to put me on a couch to find out what deep effect it had. But I am convinced now as a grown-up looking back that it certainly gave me my value system. It certainly contributed to me being a liberal and so anti-discrimination, even as a young person. And it's probably given me the work ethic that you take nothing for granted. You got to work for it all, because tomorrow it's taken away. And that is just so inbred in what happened to our family that you've never made it. You keep struggling. You don't think about retiring. You know, you've got to work every day because they can take it away.
What has driven you to continue to go and do all the things you've done?
I think I'm a normal person who has been incredibly lucky. And I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working. It's challenging. I enjoy life. And what else would I do if I wasn't working? I don't have any, I've never had career goals. I just enjoy getting up in the morning and working.
On.
The only
you
job
went
I
to
ever
law
applied
school.
for, well, yes, because my interest initially was the civil rights movement and the war in Vietnam. And I was a protester. And I spent a lot of time involved in that, whether it's organizing protests, being involved in them, et cetera, and getting very political, and going to work for Bobby Kennedy and all that kind of stuff. So that was my goal. You know, law school was just something to do while I was busy protesting, because I knew at some point I had to make a living. But I never was interested in making money. We never had money. Never was a goal. Every job I have had in life has been given to me, except the mayoralty, which I had to run for. But I am the luckiest person in the world. I don't have any particular talent. I mean, I always tell people I think I'm a nice guy and I think I'm reasonably bright, but I'm not talented. No one would have picked.
What is your talent? Everyone has one. God gives everyone one. What is it?
I can move the nostrils on my nose. There you go.
Did you ever want to syndicate the show for yourself?
This is not my interest. I get paid handsomely for doing this. I enjoy it. But this isn't my life's passion. This is how I make my living. Political other than my family, political stuff is my passion. And, but it's kind of like your religion. You don't get paid for it. It's just something you believe. So that's what I get in a serious discussion about. If it's show business, that's how I could be a truck driver. And I wouldn't mean I'd be passionate about driving trucks. It's what I do to support my family.
And lots of people do that.
Yeah.
Go to work.
Most people do that. And I do this. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing the show. But it's not like all my life I wanted to be a talk show host.
If politics is your passion, do you become frustrated that you're not engaged in it?
I mean, every week of my life, I'm in it. I mean, and you can ask anyone here, I'm in it. Every week I'm giving a speech someplace, raising money someplace on one of the cable news programs.
Who are you raising money for?
Well, the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Mostly Democrats, but also causes the voter suppression bills that were on the state ballot in Ohio. I've done a lot of work there. So there can be individual political causes, or there are individual candidates that I tend, because my political base has been Ohio over the years, even though I live in Florida now, I do most of the political work there. Although last week I spoke at the Democratic Club in Sarasota. The week before I spoke at the University of Rochester. Last month I spoke at Cambridge University.
Okay.
So I'm constantly giving political speeches.
Perception is a big deal, especially cross-generationally.
Yeah.
You've been able to get young people to resonate with them and to understand them in the way that they understand you. What has your secret been? How have you done that?
Well, it's no secret. It's how I get along with my own daughter. I think in most behaviors, being non-judgmental really helps. You know, I remember being a kid, and I remember what the things I thought about. And I remember having parents say, I remember when Elvis Presley first was televised singing on the Ed Sullivan Show, either Don't Be Cruel or Hound Dog, and they weren't allowed to show him below the waist. And I remember my parents, along with everybody else's parents, oh my God, this is the end of culture. This next generation, they're going to be awful. Look how long his hair is. The Beatles came out, oh my gosh. You know, every generation of parents seems to think that the kids don't get it, they're going to be horrible, civilization is gone. And yet, every younger generation does wonderful things by the time they grow up. So if you have that attitude, so I'm not judgmental about kids. You know, I don't get everything they're saying. Even during the show, they will use, you know, language that I don't get, or make references that, you know, I come across as an old man. But I'm never judgmental about them. I think the young people feel that. I think they look at me as either their crazy uncle or a teacher they kind of like, you know, that, you know, you can tell Jerry anything, he's not going to. And I'm not judgmental with the people on my show. Because the truth is, most of them I really like. I don't approve of what they do, perhaps, you know, it depends on what it is. But I don't, but I like them. After the show, they're like everyone else. They want a picture. Jerry, what's a good place to go and eat here in Stamford? You know, everyone's alike. We're all the same.
Jerry Springer, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, I get paid for this, don't I?
Well, as long as you give the money to charity, right?
Yes, or the Democratic Party, which you would consider charity.
All
No,
right.
you would.